If your customer is in market to buy, are you on their day one list? If not, good morning everybody. Today Ruby and myself are talking about how a lot of data that we're seeing in the market is about how companies buy. And how companies buy is way more important than how you sell. Let's be very clear. So, how companies buy in a lot of circumstances. Large-scale enterprises, small businesses, will create a day one list. What is a day one list? A day one list is all the shortlisted vendors that they think could potentially be a good fit for whatever it is that they do. So a day one list might be one company, might be a supplier they already use, might be 3 companies, but it is a very short list of potential vendors. And here's where that gets weird. Ruby knows that if you're on that day one list, your chances of being chosen are like 90+%. So even in a world where companies go out and they start looking at the market, they all have a day one list. The day one list is very short, but they'll look around. They'll look at 10 vendors, 20 vendors. But 90% of the time they'll buy from somebody on day one list. Curious. So, how does one get themselves on a day one list? Well, if you don't know the company already, if you don't have a relationship with the company already, well, guess what? Ship has kind of sailed. It's kind of hard. If you are now trying to find out how to be on that day one list, that's where you need to be able to help your customer understand who you are, what you do, why you do, where you do. Understand your value in their context, not your context, in their context. And then you start defining how much information you can provide them, how much education you can give them, how much time you can spend with them in a digital relationship to help them understand that they may have an incumbent, they may have somebody else in mind, but you're worthwhile to be on that day one list. So the day one list becomes everything. So if that percentage of purchase was 17%, 35%, you'd be like, you know what? We got a shot. You don't got a shot. If you're not on the day one list, it's going to be a tough slog. So 90+%. So if I don't know you, if I don't have a relationship with you, if I can't build a rapport with you on my terms as your buyer, whether that's digitally with information and education, understanding and creating demand for you as my vendor, interesting, you have very little chance of winning. So that's a tough message for a lot of companies to hear. Because if I'm not on the day one list, I'm out. Well, not entirely, but that's kind of true. So now it becomes, what do we need to do to make sure that we're being perceived as a high value target from a vendor perspective so that I can be on that day one list, and then the rest gets easier. So today, Ruby is suggesting the more you can help your market, the more you can build that evaluation and education piece of where you are from a creating demand perspective, the higher the probability that you can be on that day one list, which gives you the higher probability of being able to win. So, how buyers buy. There's a day one list. Know that. And then the rest of it is, how can we become part of that short day one list, whether that's one company or 3 companies or 5 companies, whatever it is. But knowing if we are on day one, our chances of winning are super duper high. So it's that easy, it's that hard, but think about it from those terms. What does the buyer need from you? How do they make these determinations about what their day one list looks like? What is the component of being on that day one list that helps you get that leg up? The rest of it is their decision process and how they make those decisions, decision by committee, however it's done. Get on that day one list. All right, enough for today. Ruby says, day one list. Know what it means, know how it works for your customers. Try to get on it. All right, have a great one. Walking and talking with Ruby.